Yep, this is why I moved back from the Mediterranean. Half 205 in this beautiful British spring weather. Nice. So here's what I bought. Most of a 205 GTI. Kind of missing an integral part, but it's mostly solid. More solid than a lot of them these days. The inside is interesting. This thing was actually MOT'd and on the ride a year ago. So it could only be so bad, right? No time like the present. I sorted the engine bay rust out. So when I bought the car, the windows were down, and it has electric windows. So I'm going to plug these into there, put 12 volts on it, and hopefully the motor works. Oh, other way. We have movement. We have glass. So I'm with Steve from 5 Speed Automotive Engineering Limited, and he has kindly donated some parts to the course. Thank you, Steve.
Pleasure.
Steve runs a garage which, well, specialises in a lot of things.
Well, yeah, anything interesting, really? Yeah.
Anything interesting. MX-5s.
Yep.
205s.
205s,
classics.
yeah.
What else have you got in the garage right now?
Oh, that's a good question. What have I got? Frog Eye Sprite.
Bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs. A couple of old classic Volvos.
So he's been very kind and given me some parts, more than just this. This is one of them. So thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. Come on, boy, sit. You know you can do this. I know everything's exciting. You want to play.
This is my 1987 Mercedes 500 SEC pillarless coupe, which Ben and I dragged out of a lockup in the spring. It had been in there for about 6 years. It hadn't run in all that time, and I'd kind of tried to forget it was in there, to be honest, because I was terrified that it'd be ruined. I put it in there because it had a misfire which I just couldn't cure at idle, and as you can see, it's quite complicated. It's a 5-litre V8, and it's, apart from being quite a complicated car anyway, it's also got a LPG injection system on it, which is a custom system, so it can run on gas, because it does about 18 to the gallon at best. So yeah, it runs on gas as well as petrol. This is the gas tank. It's 120 litres capacity, although they only take about 80% of their capacity, so I think it holds, I'm not very good with sums, about 90 litres, something like that. So we went to get it out. I mean, it took us about 10 minutes just to get the doors open on this lockup, because there was so much greenery growing around it, and I was really terrified about going in there. I just thought it was going to be ruined. When we got in there, put some fuel in it, connected up some jump leads, and tried to start it, and nothing happened at first, but after about 5 minutes it started to cough and splutter, and eventually it ran. We managed to get it up here, not without running out of petrol, just down the road there, about 50 yards from this garage. But yeah, we made it back here with it, and I kind of started off where I left it 7 years ago, trying to find the misfire that made me put it in the lockup in the first place. So the misfire was at idle. At least I thought it was only at idle. It's really hard to tell when it's a 5-litre V8, because when you rev it slightly, it tends to smooth out so much you can't tell whether it's stopped misfiring or whether it's just smoothed out because it's a big multi-cylinder engine. But my guess was that the misfire was only at idle. It was the same on petrol and LPG, so it was obviously an ignition fault. So I went through the entire ignition system, new plugs, new leads, new coil packs, all made no difference, and then replaced the crank sensor and the cam sensor. It's got a cam sensor in the distributor, so it can do sequential injection. I replaced all that, made no difference, and it runs from a Can-Am's ECU, the ignition system. It's got two maps, one for petrol, one for gas. I couldn't get any support from Can-Am, so I got in touch with an old friend of mine who's an ex-BBC electronics engineer, and he built a test rig from an Arduino mini computer board. Basically, the Arduino simulated all the inputs that the Mercedes would give the Can-Am's ECU, and he then ran the ECU on the bench with 8 spark plugs firing away, and these coil packs. And I was convinced that if anyone could fix it, he could. But unfortunately, he found that it was working perfectly. So that was a bit of a disappointment, really. It sounds weird to say that finding something working perfectly was disappointment, but at this point I was completely stumped, and I had no idea what I was going to do to fix this misfire. And obviously with the misfire, I couldn't get it through an MOT because it wouldn't pass the emissions test, which meant I couldn't get it on the road. You know, because some people say, well, just drive it with a bloody misfire, what does it matter? But you can't get an MOT with a misfire. And I was poking about under here one day, and suddenly there was a pool of petrol under the car, and the whole garage smelt like a petrol processing plant, and the cat ran away, and it all got quite nasty. And one of the fuel pipes had let go underneath. Cut a long story short, I replaced all the rubber pipes underneath. I had to take the fuel pump cradle out. It's got 2 fuel pumps. It's got a big fuel filter and a fuel accumulator, and I had to take that all out and replace several pipes, get several pipes made because Mercedes wanted ridiculous prices for them. It still cost me about 150 quid in bits just to replace these leaking fuel pumps, which felt quite harsh because I didn't want to run it on petrol anyway, because why would you if you can run it on gas? And it was still misfiring. So that took another month of guffing around. I got it back together and I got it running again, and it was still misfiring, obviously. I can't remember what I was doing, but I was just kind of poking around in here. I don't know what I was looking for, but I suddenly found this earth strap. It's just here. And I had no reason to think the earth strap would be a problem, because when you tried to start the car, the starter span really fast. It wasn't like there was any bad connections. But I looked at it and it was all corroded. In fact, I can show it to you. And this is it. And you can probably see here, it's all going green. So I thought, well, what I've got to lose, I'll replace it. So I replaced it, and the misfire had gone. 7 years in the making, that fix. Another 6 weeks or so, and I shall book an MOT. That's the roadworthy test that we have here in the UK. And once I've got it through that, which I'm fairly confident it will go through now, I can insure it and start driving it, which would be great. Very early on a Friday morning. The reason it's very early is because I've got an MOT booked on my Merc today, and I've got to change a pulley. It's the pulley that tensions the air conditioning belt. On eBay, 25 quid. It's a male part, meyle, M-E-Y-L-E. So I'm going to get that fitted, and then I'm off for an MOT later today.
Matches for me, please. How do you think it's going?
Well, coffee's all right. I've got no idea, to be honest. You can never tell, can you? I'd rather go to the dentist, frankly. It's less stressful. Back and black. Yeah, it's got an MOT. I'm now going to drive very quickly to Peterborough and try and get some gas at a place which is only open till 4:30. It's now 3:30, and it's closed all weekend, so I'm off. So I have a fresh MOT certificate for the first time in 7 years. Or rather, I don't. The Merc does. I'm not old enough to need an MOT yet. I did go through the entire braking system before I took it for the test. Obviously, it's got 4 new flexi hoses. I rebuilt one of the front calipers. It's got all fresh fluid, and obviously the brakes went through the test with no problem. One small caveat is that just as I started pulling back into my garage, I think the misfire might have returned. So that's one for next time.